Welcome to Pegwarmers. I'm Kevin, and I'm here to talk about toys. Today, we're talking about some G.I. Joe Classified news. There were a bunch of new reveals that came out, and I've been dying to talk about them. I actually was trying to sneak out a video last week, but I was, busy editing the Halloween episode with Tony and Ryan. We played the Nightmare on Elm Street board game for our Halloween episode, and there just wasn't a way to kind of put my thoughts together. So I have some thoughts about the new classified reveals, and then I'm going to open up some classified figures to round out this episode. The first reveal that I saw online was the Cobra Royal Guard, and this figure kind of blew me away. This is one of those exceptions where I really enjoy the classified treatment. I often preach that I love the retro card figures more than the classified figures. This is one of those instances, though, where they're doing something new and different with it, kind of going in an interesting direction, and I kind of love it. I probably won't display it with a lot of the fancy stuff, unless I end up army building him, which is a possibility. It is the Royal Guard, and you can make a bunch of versions with the parts there, but this figure looks really cool. One, he's got his cape, which he's always needed. He's got multiple heads. So he's got the one with the antenna. He's got one that I'm calling like the Super Royal Guard. It's got like extra fins to it, which also goes along. He comes with extra armor plates and things, and extra like gauntlets and stuff. So I don't know if that's like the champion or like a lieutenant or whatever you want to call it, but like there's a super version of him. He also has two, I'll say, humanoid heads. They're like the Cobra La noblemen. They got the blue skin, and there definitely were some weird Cobra La residents, or I don't really know what you would call them, but there were some people not in the Royal Guard helmets throughout the show or throughout that movie. So I don't think this makes anybody specific, but it is kind of a fun feature to be able to have these guys take their helmets off. And it's kind of interesting to think of them as not being fully insectoid people like the helmet kind of implies, if that was actually their face. He comes with a pistol. He comes with the sickle weapon, which was like the traditional original figure weapon. He also comes with a staff, so maybe depending on which way you dress him, you might switch the accessory there. And then he comes with wings, and that's a pretty cool idea because of the whole insectoid look to them. Having wings is pretty wicked. I am very excited for the Royal Guard. I like what Classifieds is doing with Cobra La. I think especially because Cobra La is such a weird concept that I enjoy them going and taking it to the nth degree, because the toys were not as cool as the animation. Like, the animation art was very imaginative and very, very interesting. And, Nemesis Enforcer was huge and had big wings, and the Royal Guards had the flowing capes. And they just kind of were toned down when it came to the toys. Even like Globulus couldn't stand, and he had this big pod in the movie that he was in. So that's where I think Classified is doing some cool stuff. Later in the episode, I'm gonna open up the Pythona figure. Pythona, I do have some mixed feelings on some of her additional parts based on the render, but I'll save those thoughts for when I get her out of the box. Next up, Retro Card Crazy Legs. Crazy Legs is probably not the Joe team's go-to parachute guy for most people. You had Airborne first as the Airborne Assault Trooper, then we had Ripcord, then we got Crazy Legs, then they followed it up with Freefall and Sky Patrol. So there have been a lot in this line. We do already have the Night Force Crazy Legs that came with the HasLab Dragonfly helicopter. So I kind of figured he was coming eventually. This version looks pretty good. Looks a lot like the vintage figure with the red and gray padded quilted outfit. The yelling face is a little bit interesting, but I do feel like they've been trying to do more dynamic figures and expressions on a lot of the classified stuff lately, so you can sort of like build a scene on your shelf. And him kind of yelling as he jumps out of a plane, I guess works. I know some people are a little taken aback by that head. He's got his harness, he's got his pack, he's got a rifle, he's got a knife, he's got a pistol, a helmet, and goggles. I don't necessarily love that the goggles are a loose piece, but that does allow you to make it on top his helmet like the vintage figure, or maybe you can possibly slide him over his eyes to be a more parachuting accurate depiction. I don't know how they work, like which way they fit on best or whatever. Sometimes the goggles are hard to put over a guy's eyes, or sometimes they come with multiple versions of things like that. It doesn't seem like he's coming with 2 versions of those goggles. And I'm not a huge fan of the removable goggles on top of the helmets, because they never really quite stay on. But we'll see how it goes with this one. I'm kind of excited, mostly because I had Crazy Legs as a kid and really enjoyed him. More so probably than the fact that he's like some phenomenal character. The next retro reveal was a female Crimson Guard figure. This one kind of goes with that cover girl they recently did, where I don't quite understand why it's in the retro card line, because there wasn't a retro female Crimson Guard. They're definitely doing a lot of female Cobra Troopers in this line, and that's cool. I don't really need them. I have some of them because they've come as like vehicle drivers and stuff, but I would rather just have regular Crimson Guards or regular blue shirt Cobra Troopers readily available on shelves than like Army building a few when they get released, then Army building a few of the females when they get released. But, it's everybody's own preference. So this is one that I might save as like a impulse buy if I see her in a store. But she looks great. Very silver on the face, which is always a little funny to me because the vintage figure was pretty much a black face, if I remember correctly. Maybe it had some silver details on there. That's not how it looked in the animation, though, all the time. If this figure was blue and came with a Cadet Deming's head, then it would make sense to me why we're doing a female, and maybe they're doing this release and then they'll do the Cadet Demings later based on the cartoon, and that makes a lot of sense for mold usage. The Crimson Guard comes with a rifle, a pistol, the backpack, and then a sword and a sheath. So that's kind of a nice little plus-up item there that isn't super accurate to the original figure. Next up is Retro Guard Zap, and I'm excited for this one because I really like that they are doing a lot of the green shirt characters, and I like getting them in the like most retro version. Like I bought the Classified Rock and Roll, which they really jazzed up, and he was pretty cool, but I was really happy to get the retro card version of him that doesn't have any extra like doodads on the helmet or extra tech on his web gear and things like that. So this Zap looks great. I love that he's got more of a Hispanic complexion to him, because I always felt like that was something kind of missing in the original figure. He's got his helmet, he's got his backpack with, it looks like removable missiles, he's got his bazooka, he comes with a pistol, and I think the cartoon like laser rifle, which is great. That way you can kind of use him as a regular trooper if he runs out of missiles, or you just kind of want him given some fire support, when he's not actually launching missiles. And it's nicer to get more accessories than less. So overall, I think that's a nice wave of releases. The Royal Guard, I assume, is a deluxe figure, and then those 3 retro card figures are pretty cool. They've also announced some name-only reveals. Red Dog and Taurus, the other 2 renegades from Sergeant Slaughter's team in G.I. Joe the movie. I think that's great that we're getting them. We already have Mercer packed with a Sergeant Slaughter figure in the line, which I will actually be opening later in this video. What they come with, I don't know. I think Taurus needs his scimitar, right? And then his toy accessories. Red Dog will probably come with his toy accessories. And I think it would be cool if he came with a football or that thing that he bites. Was that like a punji stick? Or was that, I never quite could tell what that was as a kid. Viper is another name-only reveal. And I assume this is going to be in the Classified line, and I could see them doing something really crazy with this guy. Viper was a weird action figure. I had him as a kid and really liked him. I don't know whether I liked him more or less than the Cobra Eels as a kid. I used them all together. I liked that he came with a pet. That was definitely a cool bonus for me. But like the monster helmet and the mutated hand and the monstrous flippers are all pretty cool, and definitely something I could see the design team doing something really crazy with. So I'm very interested to see how true to the original figure versus how like crazy they make this figure. Zanaya, Zartan's daughter from the Devil's Due comic book, is a popular character, has been a popular character for a long time, has seen very limited action figure release, but I think it's smart that they're doing her. The Dreadnoks have been huge in this line. This design team loves doing the female characters, so it makes total sense to do her. And then, Pixel Dan asked for it, we are getting a Ninja Force Zartan. it makes total sense. They've done quite a few Ninja Force figures with the Ninja Force Storm Shadow and the Ninja Force Slice and Dice and Nunchuck, right? So we'll see who else they end up doing. They'll probably do Snake Eyes and Scarlet at some point. I can't imagine they're going to leave any versions of those kind of A-list characters on the table. But Zartan is cool. I'm looking forward to see how they handle like the knives on his thigh, the mohawk. It would be hilarious if the face sculpt looked a little bit like Pixel Dan. I don't know if they'll go that route because I don't really think they're doing any homages to real people like they used to in this line. And I don't think it needs to be that. I think it needs to kind of match the sculpt of the other Zartan figures from the line. But with him being a Master of Disguise, he kind of can look any way and every way for each figure, and it doesn't really matter too much. All right, the first thing we're checking out today is Pythona. My buddy Josh from the Patreon group. He's a local collector that I am friends with, and he has the Hasbro Plus account, the premium account, so he was able to order me one of her right away, and I ran over to his house and picked it up the day she came in, or maybe the day after she came in, but I haven't opened her yet. I wanted to open it in a video, but special thanks to Josh for helping me out. If you saw the Rattler unboxing episode, that was, Josh is in that episode, that we unboxed Josh's Rattler. Ooh, very foil, shiny packaging here. Ooh. So Pythona here looks fantastic. I love that they gave her so many accessories. They did change her design to a little bit, you know, giving her like kind of the tattered cape and stuff like that. And they gave her these like fangs on the open mouth one. It's interesting, but I think it works for her. I think the monstrous style is kind of cool. All right, we've got her out of the package. And she's got great texturing on her outfit and a pretty sexy physique, which I felt like they kind of toned down on the Super 7 O-Ring figure. That her physique was definitely part of that going for the 13-year-old boys demographic in that original movie when they were designing some of that stuff, you know. Having her be very attractive and Zorana originally going to be topless in a scene. Still crazy to me that you know, made it into the script and then got cut later. Putting her in a bathing suit just makes more sense for a movie that they're sending, you know, a movie in theaters for kids that's basically just a commercial to sell toys. So her cape has a hood. Again, something that the Super 7 one lacked. I'm trying to see if I can get it up over her face here. They did a nice job of sort of sewing that point to it. So it does kind of flare out nicely. I would have loved a head that was like just the eyes and sort of like a overspray on it so her face was really dark, because her face was pretty much hidden in that cape in that first sequence of the movie, which I think is her best scene. But this cape is sewn. The cloth goods, soft goods, are really nice. I love the way they work. The holes at the bottom are a little strange, not really movie accurate, but they are fun and interesting, so I don't really mind going off model a little bit there at all. Oh, okay. I got her cape to position a little differently. Now it actually looks more like a mask, more like how it did in the movie, hiding her face. It was sort of like folded in, I guess, when it was pulled down. So the more you play with it, kind of the better that gets. She does have two ponytails. She has a really long one and a little bit shorter one. I don't know if that's just like preference for hair. She doesn't really get a haircut ever in the movie. Unless you really want to have maybe the short ponytail so you can have a ponytail on and the hood up. But I just took the hood off. Like, took the ponytail off to put the hood up. But she does have two heads, so you do have two ponytails. The one, like I said, is sort of that intense face. The other one is the, like, sort of the vampire striking face. She has the gem. A gem of that size answers all my questions. So her hands, she has, like, painted nails. They're not anything crazy, but she comes with multiple sets of hands. And I kind of wish she had a set that was really looked like claws. She has, you know, slightly long nails on her regular hand. She has two fists. Then she has a hand that is like dripping acid, which does happen at one point in the movie from her claws, but her nails don't seem all that long, a little bit long on that hand, but not like crazy, not like talons. And then she also has a hand that is like throwing dust or something like that, and she does blind. No, Nemesis Enforcer blinds roadblocks, so I'm not totally sure what this one is, where there's like a smoke cloud coming off the back of her hand. Or maybe her flesh is melting. I don't know, that's a strange one. She comes with several beasts, so she's got this like suction cuppy squid, and it has tentacles so you could wrap it around a guy's face. That's really cool. She does throw something like that at some of the Crimson Guards in that main opening sequence. She has the multi-faced serpent that she uses to like eat through the electric fence outside the Terradrome, again from that opening scene. She's got a little shell with some tentacles coming out of it, and this is the thing that kind of wraps up the Crimson Guards. She uses multiple different attacks on them. She also has another little squid-looking guy. This almost looks like the key. Didn't they have a creature like this that was the key to the prison cell? I think that might be what he is. Then, of course, there's like a clam in her hand, which I think she opens this up, and it has like an image of the BET inside when she talks to Serpentor. And then the last two accessories were made up for this classified version. They're like bladed discs, but the blades are like energies. The handles are serpents. Very cool stuff, I think. I really like this figure. She's got great detailing. Seems like she's got some really good articulation. They really pulled out all the stops on this figure. Thank you, Hasbro, for doing a great job on Pythona. And Joshua, thanks for ordering this for me to help me get her in faster to be able to just review her, but also to make sure that I was able to get her. I was really kind of nervous because they had said that she was going to be like a Comic-Con exclusive and then go to another con before ever going up for like regular sale. So the premium was kind of my best bet to make sure I got her. Since we're talking about G.I. Joe the movie, we'll open up Sergeant Slaughter and Mercer next. This Sergeant Slaughter figure is sort of in desert camo. This is, I think, a clear reference to a con version of Sergeant Slaughter that the Collectors Club did, while Mercer here is a, G.I. Joe the movie reference type figure. So many accessories. Well, I got Mercer pulled out, so I'm going to start by taking a look at him. Mercer here gets the classified treatment of adding some tattoos to him, because Lenny loves to do tattoos. So he's got a skull and a web and a spider on the back of his arm. And, he's an ex-Cobra, so I guess it kind of works. The bad guys, the bad boys in the 80s always had tattoos. He does have the No Cobra logo on his shirt, which I love. That was a detail in the movie that was not really on the original figure. If they used Viper pants for him, I love that. I always felt like that was kind of what they were going for with him. Some of his gear came from that time period. He's got a pistol here that can go on his chest. He's got a knife that can go in his boot. There were two knives in the pack, kind of in the middle, and I assume one goes to each character. This knife fits well. Yeah, the skinnier knife fits in his ankle sheath here on his boot. So I believe that's his. There were a bunch of sets of hands, but none of them have gloves on, so I believe they all go to Sergeant Slaughter. He also has a little silencer for his pistol, but that obviously is not going to fit in his holster there. Some of the holsters on this line do have places for them, but that chest holster doesn't, and I don't see any other place to stash that on him, which is a little bit of a shame. He's got a backpack. It's kind of just a big slug backpack, which hopefully isn't too hard to put on him with the vest. Sometimes the vests and web gear will kind of interfere with the peg hole in their backs, but his works pretty well. He also comes with two kind of fancy guns here. I hate this one already, the one with the red stripe. It's got that closed grip on the back. I just think that's so impractical for action figures. Just don't design toys that way. But this one looks like it would be pretty easy for him to hold. So that one kind of works for me. He comes with two heads. The one that's on him already has quite a sneer. The other one is a little bit more neutral. The sneer is good because they're kind of like mean to Falcon at the beginning, but I prefer this sort of regular head that he comes with. That That's the one I'll display him with. He also comes with a little pair of goggles, like safety glasses for when he's at the shooting range. He's a little dorky looking with the glasses on, I think. As a kid, I thought Mercer was so cool. He was my favorite of the Renegades. This figure's ankle holster is fallen off over and over and over again. It's a little bit annoying. I loved the sculpt of him. I loved the flat top and everything. I just thought he was super cool. Sergeant Slaughter was one of my favorite G.I. Joes as a kid. I loved the Triple T figure and then the later Warthog version of him. My sister had the mail-away version, and I had the other two. And then I didn't get the Slaughter's Marauders version because when that wave came out, I was mostly getting the repaint characters that I just didn't have a regular version of. So I had gotten Barbecue and Mutton Junkyard from the Marauders as a kid. But this Sergeant Slaughter figure looks great. I love the chocolate chip camo. I'm a huge fan of that. Growing up as a kid with Desert Storm, I just always thought it was super cool. I have painted chocolate chip camo on probably 100 miniature soldiers for an Imperial Guard army for Warhammer 40,000. And I also did a whole custom Desert Squad out of O-ring figures years ago and painted chocolate chip camo on all of those guys. So he looks fantastic. I love this head that has the whistle in his mouth. Like, what a fun way to do an accessory, and it won't get lost and it won't fall out. I love that concept. He's got sunglasses here, and mine are pretty warped from popping them out of the package. I don't know if I can get them to stay on there right. That's the problem with the removable glasses. The removable hat is cool. I do kind of like that because I loved the removable hat on the Warthog one. He looks cool. Plus, he comes with other hats. So, besides the sort of drill instructor hat, there's a more standard... Oops, there goes glasses. More standard Marine cover. So, this is more like what Gung Ho wears. And he also has a beret. And I feel like this is a little bit of an homage to his wrestling days, because him with the whistle in his mouth and the red beret on was, I think, part of his Iran sympathizer era storyline like look. All right, so I popped off the whistle head, put on the regular head. Yeah, these sunglasses are a hot mess. I just dropped them again. Hopefully I can find them for the B-roll. There's Sarge with his hat on. He comes with a bunch of accessories as well. He's got a swagger stick. Got to have that for Sarge. That was the original figure accessory. He's got a awesome looking revolver, a silver revolver with a white handle that can fit in this holster on the side. It seems a little loose, but I think that's the only handgun he has that would fit in there. He also has a knife for the opposite side. He's got a grenade launcher here with like a belt hanging off of it. This is not exactly what his accessory was for the convention figure, but I do think he came with a grenade launcher of sorts. That's pretty cool. He's also got a more standard military rifle with a grenade launcher underneath. This might actually be the one that came with Leatherneck. So, you know, maybe this is Leatherneck's hat and Leatherneck's weapon being kind of released, you know, reusing the tool. He's got several sets of hands. He's got a ammo drum here, which maybe part of that grenade launcher or maybe part of this other weapon that he has. This other weapon, again, is one of these guns I just don't like. The enclosed grip. Actually, this one's not too enclosed. It's a really weird-looking weapon. But I guess you could maybe get his hand on it without too much trouble, because the guard is on the front side, not really on the back side. Yeah, unsure about this drum magazine, where that goes. He also has a silencer. I think that goes on the front of this wacky-looking weapon. Maybe makes that look a little bit better. He's cool. I really like him. I hope I can find his sunglasses on the floor. I wish they weren't so fiddly, because I do think Sarge looks great with sunglasses on. Alright, I found them. Can I put them on without dropping them again? They're so bent up and deformed from being on him in the package in a weird way. Maybe the hot water trick will work. Yeah, it's a challenge. If the B-roll looks terrible, it's because they're all warped. All right, next up, I've got retro carded Televiper. I missed the original Televiper. I didn't get the Trouble Bubble. I don't know how I didn't get the Trouble Bubble. I just didn't order it for some reason. I don't even know what was going on, if I was trying to be conservative financially during that time period, or I had sworn off vehicles, which I don't think I did. Or I just thought I'd find it in the stores, or maybe I thought I ordered it and just missed it. I don't know, but I don't have one. So I finally got a Televiper. This is the retro carded version, which, you know, I love the retro card line. So he comes with his basically original figure accessories. He has 3 heads. They're all the same expression, which is maybe a shame. But there's one with nothing on his glasses. There's one that says alert, and one that says, what the? And those are, you know, kind of cartoon accurate. I always liked how the stuff would go across their goggles. It wasn't usually just like stuck in the center like a display, but more of like a scrolling thing. It definitely brought up questions. There were some kids that thought they were like cyborgs. The fact that it went across their face. A couple times it just seemed like it was something on a screen reflecting off their masks. But there were other scenes where that wasn't really accurate. I don't know, and it was funny that was a little bit consistent throughout animation. That they remembered to do that, or somebody wrote that in the script each time they were in there. I would have to rewatch the series to really track and make sure they did it every time. Was it truly consistent, or was it just sort of a reoccurring gag? That I don't know. The retro card figures come with a figure stand, which I think is fantastic. So Televiper, this is the 3rd version of the Televiper, I guess, because there was the one with the Trouble Bubble, there was the Tiger Force one with the Tiger Force Trouble Bubble, and now this one. But he's got his vest. He's got his helmet, which is nicely sculpted with, like, the headpiece on it. I think it's even a little clearer to tell what that is than in the vintage figure, because it's painted black over the blue helmet. He's got a Cobra logo, a little zipper on his chest, decent-looking pants and boots. I like the figure. He looks good. He comes with a wire here to connect his scanner to his backpack. I believe it was referred to as a scanner on the vintage figure. But in the comics, Larry had them use it as like a TV. They could film with it like a camera, but they could also display stuff on it like it was a screen. So Cobra Commander could get like sit reps from other places. And it looks like there's a peg on the backpack, so you could peg this thing onto the backpack. I'm struggling a little bit to put the backpack on him. That vest and the hole in his back aren't quite lined up. I do like that they put a little paint app on the backpack, a little bit of silver there. Yep, having limited luck. I'll futz around with it for the B-roll, but it definitely like him, and probably should have gotten a second one of them because I do like to army build, but I've been trying to be good. The last figure we're going to take a look at in this episode is retro carded Flint. He has some terrible, terrible card art on here, but the figure inside looks pretty good. I have the regular Classifieds Flint, which is not a bad figure. I skipped the Tiger Force one. Didn't love the face paint on him. My stepson actually gave me the classified version of Flint for Christmas a couple years back, and but I'm very excited to have the like cartoon/action figure version here. Flint's got a figure stand. He's got his backpack, and I love that they painted some details on it. So it's like a dynamite pack there. He's got a canteen. He's got some grenades. The backpack just looks really nice. More detail, I feel, or more like character specific than a lot of the backpacks. His shotgun, which he, is known for carrying around. I love that. He's got a pistol, several sets of hands, and, of course, his beret. I think he looks pretty great. Put the pistol in the holster there. Can the shotgun fit in the holster? It's a long shotgun. His original figure kind of came with, like, a mini shotgun that maybe would have worked with a holster. But, yeah, I do think his vintage figure has a holster sculpted on there. He's got his airborne wings painted on his chest. He's got the ammo for the shotgun on his belt there. Just really cool looking. I'm very happy with this figure. This is what I want from Hasbro. I want scaled up 6-inch versions of the vintage figures. Awesome. Alright guys, in the comments down below, let me know what you think of all the reveals. Let me know what you think of the new figures I picked up. Which ones did you get? Which ones are you ordering? Super excited that Classified just keeps chugging along. Do me a favor, share this video with a toy collecting friend, hit the like button, subscribe if you haven't done so. If you want to support the channel, consider joining us on Patreon. But most of all, thanks for hanging on the peg with me.